if there's one thing that I could advise anyone is don't go cheap on the memory. Make sure you get a lot of memory just because I feel like in the world that we live in, we're just constantly are opening up things. We very rarely close things out.
Welcome to Macpreneur, the show for seasoned solopreneurs looking to streamline their business on a Mac. Unlock the secrets to saving time and money with your host and technology mentor, Damien Schroers.
Hello. Today I have the pleasure to welcome Sally Ivester on the show. Sally is a business coach who helps her clients succeed in corporate jobs by teaching them the unspoken rules of the corporate world. She works primarily with those who are in their early career era, helping them go from new hire to top talent. She believes that standing out is the key to success in a corporate job, and she offers concrete steps her clients can take to improve their performance. Sally, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Damien. I'm so excited to be here. I cannot wait to just dive into all of this stuff. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So let's dive into your Mac setup. So what current setup do you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you asked this question. First of all, I could not do any of this kind of stuff without a MacBook. It's sort of like the first place that I go to when I think of, I want to start my own business. Like, what do I do? What kind of like computer do I get to really set this up? So I have a MacBook Pro. It's a 14-inch, and it's the Apple M3. And I specifically got the 8 gigabytes of memory.
Okay, so yeah, that's the lower level of memory. Did you notice anything special? Is it okay for your needs?
Yeah, that I'm so glad you brought that up, Damien, because part of why I chose it is because I'm trying to start this thing and I want to make sure that I'm being very conscious with like the funding, especially when you're buying a MacBook for your own personal use case. And I gotta tell you, I made a mistake. If I could go back and if I could either sell this computer or figure out a way to return it or anything like that, I would get one with way more memory. Because one of the things that I love to do is I have so many tabs open at all times. And that's like a me thing. I don't know, Damien, if you face this or if your listeners face it, but I tend to just have a lot of tabs, and I'm a Google Chrome user and Chrome on Apple takes up more
Mhm.
memory. And so I'm constantly facing this just total red slog when I'm pulling up like the memory and how it's being processed. And I just really wish that I bought a computer with larger amounts of memory so that I could be in a place where I'm not seeing the spinning dial of delay. And you're just wondering, is it going to crash? Is it not going to crash? What tabs do I need to now X out of? And if I X out of them, how am I going to remember all of those
Mhm.
things? And I have some tips now just in terms of what I've had to do to sort of solve for my lack of memory. And I use one tab just because it consolidates all of the tabs into like one
Mhm.
particular just tab. And it's a great way to just organize. It's sort of like a to-do list. It's all within like one vertical checklist and you can see which ones you need and don't need. Obviously, any of my notes with Damien are always going to be at the top. Um, and then the other thing I do is I have like instant or great suspender, something suspender, where after 5 minutes of not using, then it just suspends it, right? Which takes up way less memory. I wish I lived in a world where I didn't have to do that. And so if there's one thing that I could advise anyone is don't go cheap on the memory. Make sure you get a lot of memory just because I feel like in the world that we live in, we're just constantly are opening up things. We very rarely close things out. I feel like that actually, Damien, could be a whole episode in and of itself. Like, why do we always add? It's very hard for us to subtract. But because we're like that, you need a computer that can keep up. So that's the one thing that I really wish I did. I could go back in time and change up. One of many, I
So how,
guess.
how long ago did you buy this MacBook Pro?
I bought this back in November of 2023.
Okay, yeah, so it will be almost a year compared to the time of recording. Yeah, so it's a bit it's a bit difficult to go back to the Apple Store.
Yeah, you got it. Exactly. Please help me. And I will even buy the next new one, but I don't think they're going to want to take my my computer. So yes.
Yeah, so one idea that came to my mind while you were speaking was um, you could actually look at the resale value of your MacBook. Actually, if you would buy a new Mac, you can ask Apple how much your MacBook Pro is still worth. And
Yeah.
so look at the value that Apple would give you today. It's less than a year old, so maybe you could get something. And then on the Apple Store, on the online Apple Store, they have a refurb section where you can get like latest generation models with 20% off, sometimes 30% off, because it's a refurb. So maybe you could actually swap to a 16 gig for not too much money on out of pocket.
I love that idea. After this, you know what I'm doing, which is I'm going on the Apple Store. I'm going to try to figure that kind of stuff out because um like you are a business owner, Damien, and you
Mhm.
know that when you're a business owner, you have a lot going on and you need your technology to keep up with you, right?
Mhm.
Like we always talk about how do you automate? How do you scale? I'll tell you one way you don't scale. You don't scale if you have a computer that can't handle all of the things that you're trying to do,
Mhm.
whether you're trying to make new course content via a Google slide, while also trying to answer email, while also trying to watch some videos in the background to just sort of like further your thinking. Those are
Mhm.
not things that you should sort of trade off and sacrifice on. So I'm totally aligned with you there, Damien, and I love that idea. So please keep them coming.
Yeah, and for the listeners, that's maybe if you are thinking about upgrading your Mac, really, 16 gigs today is the minimum, the bare minimum. If we look at the future and Apple Intelligence features that Apple will be releasing, even though it is theoretically compatible with all the MacBooks, even the MacBook Air with 8 gigs. 8 gigs of RAM is the minimum for Apple Intelligence. If you really want to be able to use it, and especially it's possible to run a large language models locally on a Mac. And for that, 16 is the bare minimum. I have a 16 gig MacBook Pro, and I regret not having gone the 32 gig RAM because, yes, I can run local models, but I'm limited on the size of the large language model that I can run locally. Yeah.
And so maybe that's the takeaway, Damien, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm at 8 and I'm like, "Oh, I wish I had 16." You're at 16, you wish you had 32. Maybe the takeaway is get the one with the largest amount because you just need your computer to keep up with you.
Mhm.
And with like today's technology and all the things that we can use on it like Gemini and ChatGPT, and there's going to be way more.
Mhm.
Maybe this is the thing that we don't go cheap on because it allows us to do way more with our content, way more with just like our work and so on and so forth. So
Mhm.
maybe now I'm going to go look at the 32 gigs based off of what you just said, Damien, because you want your technology to keep up with you.
Mhm. Yeah. Very good. So if we go back in time,
Yeah.
what was your first Mac? How did you discover the Mac ecosystem?
Yeah. That's a great question. I actually have a Mac through work. And we specifically chose MacBook. We didn't go through PC. And so that was like my first taste. And I got to tell you, it's just like, it looks beautiful, right? And it's really easy to use. And then you start to just get really into like these little quick tricks, not trips. And once you learn tricks, you don't want to have to relearn a new language. And so you sort of like get bought in and you have to do it.
Mhm.
So I use a MacBook at work, so I'm familiar with it. But at work, a lot of that is using the bare minimum MacBook features. I'm not making like iMovies or anything on that. But I know that MacBook has that ability. So when I'm thinking about what am I going to use when I start my own business, I'm thinking I need a MacBook because I need to make movies. I need to potentially be able to film myself. I want to be able to use all the tricks that I learned from my current job and place it there. And there's not a lot of options that allow you that type of functionality that MacBook has, where it's sort of, in my mind, a jack of all trades, just to use sort of more of an American phrase. So that's what led me to it. And to be honest, it's worked out really well. It is more expensive than the other options out there, but it does give you more functionality. And you really just can't beat if you know the language, if you know the tricks, you might as well use what you know in your small business because you just don't have time to relearn this kind of stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. Totally. If you compare a Mac to a PC with similar capabilities or performance, the price difference is not that big. yes, still it's still a little bit more expensive to buy a Mac than a PC, especially when you go a little bit high on memory and on storage. The Apple tends to make you pay for these
Yeah.
extra gigabytes and terabytes a lot more than on the PC side. But with the Mac, you get so many built-in applications that are good that
Yeah.
you don't have on the PC side, unfortunately. So yeah, we there are pros and cons, but I think we have it better on the Mac
Yeah.
side.
I think you're absolutely right, 100%. And, and you also just can't beat, like, apart from the features, if you're familiar with something, you're familiar with it, right?
Mhm.
And it just takes time then to like learn something new. And then you get frustrated. And it's like, if time is the most valuable asset, which it is, where can you spend your time? Probably using something that you know so that you can spend your time creating the content or like moving your business forward.
Yeah, totally. So let's switch to the applications that
Mhm.
you use for your business.
So there are a few. The first one is notes, right? The notes feature, I think, is one of the best ways for me to run my program and to keep things organized. The other component I would say with notes is because I have this memory issue. It's a great way for me to just like pull things up. Where it doesn't take up so much memory. Because my alternative is I have like a Google Doc that is about 300 pages now, where I take all of my notes. If I were to pull that up, that would just put such a big pressure on the memory that I can't do that. And so part of this is like I love notes, it's easy, and also it just doesn't put that tax on memory. So maybe going back to the beginning of our episode, buy the computer with a lot of memory or you're going to have to hack your way, into making yourself efficient.
Mhm.
I would say the second thing is iMovie. Like, I just do a ton there in addition to FaceTime and, of course, iMessage, the way that it's integrated between, I have an iPhone as well, the phone, all of that kind of stuff makes my life so easy. The thing that drives me bananas is when an, a phone app does not integrate with like the desktop version of it, right? You don't want to have two different systems. You want to be able to have it all speak on the back end because there are some things that you can do more easily on phone. And there are some things that you can do more easily on the desktop. And these are types of things where I'm like, we got to just make sure they sync up. And I think Apple has that figured out. Everything syncs up. And that's what I love most about all of these different types of features. The other thing that I'll just throw out there is I use QuickTime a lot too, just in terms of like everything that we're doing. But because I make a lot of video and because I film a lot of just content where it's not live, I'm filming it and I want to put it up on my website. It's really important for me to have a computer that has that capability built in addition to being just so seamless and easy to use. And Apple totally has figured that out.
Mhm. So when you record videos, what do you do? What's your workflow for doing that?
Yeah, recording video. So just as context, as Damien mentioned before, I am someone who is helping those, to be honest, those in the early career era, but also anyone who's just frustrated, right? Or stuck in your career and you've tried a few different things out, but you're like, how do I become top talent? Right. And that's really like hard. And you can be told these theoretical things, but how do you like get into the brass tacks of like, how do I actually drive my one-on-one agenda? Do I drive my one-on-one agenda with Damien, with my manager, with my coworkers, all of this stuff? What's the value that I provide and how do I increase that value? That's like what I do. And you can imagine there's a lot of topics that fall underneath this. You can, of course, talk about like what are the projects you take on, which I think are obvious. But a lot of people don't also talk about expectations or how to manage expectations. Something that I heard recently that I totally agree with is you can never beat someone's secret expectations, right? You can never meet those, and that's what you face a ton. So I do a lot of content on expectation setting and where that comes from. Then of course it goes into different things like your performance review, but also like how you work with your coworkers, or do you work with them in a way that is like very strategic? So these are just like a sort of a sampling in terms of the types of content that we go through, and I call it, just to sort of summarize, the pitch framework, right? And when you think about value, it comes down to how do you present yourself and your work? How do you think about impact? How do you take feedback? How do you collaborate with your coworkers? And then finally, all hail your manager, right? How do you make your manager your number one advocate? So that's pitch. And that's the type of content that I'm filming. And within that, there are also a lot of visuals that I use because you don't just want to like hear me speak. You want to be able to like see what it is that I'm saying, be able to reference it, be able to look at this is a good thing, this is a bad thing. And so that's the type of content that I'm putting out. And I need to have just sort of a system that allows me to do all of those new things. But also because we live in a Gen Z just environment, you need to make it catchy. Now you have to do things like you have to have emojis pop up, right? Or you have to have like great sound in the beginning, or you need to just make them interested across these like 2 minute or 3 minute clips. And those are the types of things that I think Apple just offers in a really easy way. And that's why I've leaned in so heavily.
Mhm. And so in terms of tool, do you do that everything already in iMovie or?
Yeah, I use iMovie and like exports to QuickTime, and then also, you're able to just do so much just like editing, right? Like you can put in
Mhm,
visuals and like that. That's like where the magic comes into play.
mhm. Yeah, something that I've been doing, and that's this was for the solo shows of Macpreneur, is that I've recorded most of the episodes in season 2 directly from Keynote. So with Keynote, you can create slides, and there is a feature called live camera. And so, yes, you can have text, you can have bulleted lists, you can have nice emojis, and you can do animations, right? But you can have your own webcam, for instance, as a circle in a corner of the screen. Or you can be at one point of the presentation, take the full screen, right? Your camera is full screen, and maybe with your logo at the corner or something
Yeah.
like that. And what is nice with Keynote is every element, every object can be animated. So your webcam can slide from the bottom. You can have, like, as a lower third, your name or the website. Same thing, you can animate them to come from left to right, right to left, and so on. And so that's for me something that I discovered, and I wouldn't say that I've perfected it, but I see it for people who are on the education side, who see themselves as educators, to be able to leverage a tool, a free tool that comes with every Mac, right? If you can manage to leverage the power of Keynote, I think that's a very nice thing to go, right? If you go from iMovie and then you need to edit and you spend a lot of time editing afterwards, with Keynote, you spend the time upfront, right? You need to prepare the slides, you need to prepare the animations, but once it is prepared, you just hit record and you export as a movie.
I love that. I'm going to use that right now. Like I have like new content that I want to film, so I absolutely want to do that.
Mhm.
And then with Keynote, do you also have a pointer that you can use to like point people to different topics like within the slide? And could you potentially write on the slide as well?
So that I haven't explored, but since you can do animations, right? You can animate text boxes so that they appear as if you were typing letter by letter, right? So
Yeah,
you can give the illusion that you're typing something, but it's just an animation of a text box.
interesting.
For the cursor, I have to double check. I don't know, actually. I don't
Okay.
know. But what I found really useful to use Keynote is because if you have your own branding, right, your color palette, maybe you have background, special background color, and so on, you can create your own themes and your own templates. And once you've set it up, right, once you've set up all the different types of slides that you can use in a presentation, it's actually very easy. You just need to replace the text, and voila, it's super quick afterwards.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely going to I have a few running action items coming off of this. One, look at the Apple site, see what I can get from my current computer and how I can upgrade. And then two, I'm going to check out Keynote as a way to sort of record this content because you're right. I honestly, I already do the work in the upfront, right? You want to make a beautiful slide. You want to make sure that it's impactful and that you have the right information. But I'm also then doing the work on the back end. And so, like, if I could just front load it all, that would be awesome. So I'm absolutely going to try that out.
Very good.
Thank you for that, Damien.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, what tip or trick did you discover on your Mac?
So it's Quick Look. And I don't know how I missed this, but like I just discovered it, I would say a few weeks ago. And Quick Look essentially means you press the space bar on your MacBook. And if you're looking at files or everything, I take a lot of screenshots. So if I go to my desktop and I like just click on a file or recent screenshot that I took, it just pops it up. I just literally, I press the space bar. I click on well, first of all, I guess you first press on the actual title of the screenshot, then you press the space bar, and then it pops up. And that is so magical for me because that just saves so many steps. I obviously am going to be looking at a lot of screenshots. So then I have to like usually press into it, double click, then I have to like see it, then I X out of it. And that's a lot, times like 10 screenshots or 20 screenshots. And so if I could just use my Quick Look, that saves me time, that saves me energy, and that I immediately can get what I want. And so that is my new favorite feature. And as someone who looks at just like a lot of images, screenshots, downloads, all of that stuff, it's so, so easy. And I cannot talk about it enough.
Yeah, it's an excellent. It's I don't know if we can call that a keyboard shortcut because it's just one. It's one
Yeah.
key, but yeah, it's such a time saver. And so for folks who don't know, it's mostly in Finder because the desktop is a folder on your Mac. You can select files on the desktop, and it's the same. The beauty in a Finder window, if you select multiple items, either with a mouse or if you do Command A, you select them all. If you press the space bar, afterwards, you only need the arrow keys. So if you have 3 or 4 images, one on top of each other, or one, yes, on top of each other, you select the 4, you press space bar, it will show you the first one, and then down arrow the second one, down arrow the third one, down arrow the fourth one. And it saves so much time rather than having to double click and open and close, as you said.
You're totally right. 100%. Thank you, Damien, for asking. What about you, Damien? What's your favorite?
Yeah, I think my favorite remains Spotlight. I think I'm using that several times every day. Still to launch app, even though I have a Stream Deck with buttons, I have a bunch of automation. I still come back to Spotlight, Command Space, and yeah, and that's for me one of the also very maybe hidden but very powerful feature in macOS.
Yeah. It's the simple ones that I think are honestly the best ones. So yeah, I totally hear you there 100%.
Okay, so we almost at the end of the episode. And we have the question of if you were in charge of the Mac division at Apple, what would be your first priority?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to talk about a software feature here. My biggest thing is, can you add in labels to iMessage? iMessage is something that I use day in and day out, right? I use it on my MacBook computer a ton. And what I would love is to be able to add labels. As an example, I could have a label that says podcast. I have 2 young kids. I could have a label that says family or like schools. And you bet I'm going to prioritize those types of messages, especially in the middle of the day, because you have no idea what's going on and something may have happened. Right now, it's all treated the same, right? It's all the same color. And that doesn't mean that it's the same priority for me. And so if I were able to just change the labels, add in different colors, or even just be able to add in what those labels are, that can help me filter and make sure I'm prioritizing my time on the most important things.
Mhm.
The reason I say this is I use labels in Gmail. Gmail is the way that I run my life. And when it comes to emails that I receive, I label everything. When I got an email from you, Damien, I immediately put podcast on it. And those are the types of things that just help me register. Okay, what are my key areas I might need to focus on today? What are things I might need to get back to? Another key thing I put on is action required, right? Because my goal is to not have 12 million emails. My goal is to have very little emails and I just sort of put them into different boxes. There might be an action required, there's a waiting. Sometimes you send emails and you need a response back. But sometimes you forget you need that response because we're all busy. So I put a waiting label on that and then it just comes back to me. Or like I can look at the waiting area and I could be like, oh yeah, I have to actually respond. I'm waiting on a response from Damien and I need to make sure
Mhm.
I follow up with him. I would love that functionality when it comes to the way that we send our text messages because we do so many text messages nowadays. I love that you can now mark unread. I think that's a great feature, but I think you also need to have that for our text messages, just like the different ways that we can filter, the different labels, or like if you immediately email me, Damien, I'm going to set up a filter that says things from Damien, they're going to go in podcasts.
Mhm.
They just are simple things, going back to the simple things changing lives, but they're simple things that make us more productive. And when we feel more productive, then we feel like we can get more stuff done. And when we get more stuff done, we feel like we're increasing our value. And that's what we want to do as human beings, just like feel important, increase our value, and be able to change lives. So that's probably more of a long-winded answer, Damien, but that I'm just so passionate about this. And I think that this is a feature that absolutely we should be pushing out because it just gives people the opportunity to like just better manage their time.
Mhm. Yeah, totally agree. For people who send me messages that is the best or the worst way to get me to do something because I'm gonna forget. I will look at the message. Sometimes I think about putting it as unread, but even putting a message unread doesn't mean that in 2 hours or 3 hours I will go back there. So it's always an extra step to create a reminder or a to do or and yeah to maybe to piggyback on that is to have a better integration between iMessage and reminders or
Yeah,
any apps because yeah when it's just communication, when it's pure communication, it's okay, but when it's related to our to-do list that becomes
totally.
messy very quickly. Yeah.
Totally aligned with you. And as entrepreneurs, right, or business owners, or even someone who's working in corporate,
Mhm.
your to-do list is how you manage your day,
Mhm.
how you manage your life. And if we could have easier ways to do that, I think that would just make us more productive. So absolutely agreed with you.
Mhm. Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much, Sally. Where can people find you?
Yes. If you want to touch base, I would love that. Find me at sallyivester.com. So that's SALLY, I as in Illinois, V as in Victor, E as in Edward, S as in Sam, T as in Tom, E as in Edward, R as in Richard.com. And you'll find all the different types of information. I have free templates on there that I share out with other people. I call it my career starter pack checklist, just especially for people who are starting out their careers and what you can do within the first few weeks. And I'd love to connect. I'd love to chat about any of these types of things.
Yeah, very good. I will put all the links in the show notes, including all the tools that we have discussed about. So yeah, thank you very much, Sally, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Damien. This was a great time. And I have so many actions coming. I feel like so empowered now, right? Like I just learned about Keynote. I learned about Apple and like returning it and potentially getting the 32 gig because you're struggling with a 16 gig. And I just love that we're talking about practical advice, like our day to day, because that's where a lot of these challenges come up. So thank you so much for having me and hope to be on again.
My pleasure. So, if, like Sally, you would like to share how you are using your Mac to run your business, it's very simple. Just visit macpreneur.com/apply. If you are already on Podmatch, click on the button and you will land on the show profile. Otherwise, just fill the application form and I will get back to you within a few days. Once again, it's macpreneur.com/apply. In the comments below, please share your main takeaway from this episode. And if not done yet, please subscribe to my channel so you will get more helpful tips on how to run your business on your Mac. And until next time, I'm Damien Schreurs, wishing you a great day.
Thank you for watching the Macpreneur podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave a comment and share it with a friend right now.